Welcome to Chapter 2 of The Divide. Please like and subscribe. Julia looked over at the alarm clock on her bedside table. It was 7:30, time to get ready for school. But not just any school, no, a new school for both her and Matthew. A school that was supposed to be one of the best in the country, and one that would offer them a fresh start. At only 15 for Julia and 11 for Matthew, it was sad that that's what they needed, but it was. And Eminence Boarding School was going to be just that. Suddenly, a knock came on Julia's door, and then it opened. Her mother, Helen, walked in, smoking a cigarette and flicking its ashes onto the carpet. "Hey, kiddo, time to get up and go to your fancy new life," her mother said as she blew smoke in Julia's face. "And to think," she continued, "all you had to lose was a leg to get everything you wanted. Talk about winning the lotto." Julia immediately coughed from the smoke and turned away from her mother. She hated the smell of her cigarettes. She hated the sound of her voice, and most of all, she hated the fact that she hated her own mom. "Thank you, Helen," Julia said as polite as she could. She then raised herself up a bit more out of bed and looked towards her mother for a sign of help. "What are you looking at, Missy?" snapped her mom. "This ain't Club Med. Get your own leg." Julia bit her tongue and slid out of bed. She then limped towards her indoor prosthetic. Good, her mother said. "You know, you should be grateful for this opportunity. You're lucky. You got a free scholarship to any high school in the country, and just for getting shot. Some kids, they would kill for that. Heck, some adults would too." Julia didn't say anything in return. With her mother, it was often best that way. She just strapped her leg on, and then she went into the bathroom and locked the door behind her. Afterwards, she heard her mother yelling at Matthew to get up, and then she heard her mom walk out of the house. Looking at herself in the mirror, Julia smiled as she brushed her shoulder-length hair. "Hello," she said as she practiced introducing herself. "My name is Julia. This is my brother Matthew. We're happy to be here. Thank you so much for accepting us and letting us study at your school." Suddenly, from behind the locked door came a mocking voice reflecting her own. It was Matthew. "And if there are any cute boys at this school, I would totally be into you, and I would take your rich parents' money to buy, a boat or a mansion. Oh, and also a bazooka. One which I can take to a prison where this evil jerk who shot me is, and then, I would, blow him to kingdom come." Julia smiled as she unlocked the door to let her brother in. "What are you joking about, Maddie? You would love to spend my rich boyfriend's money." "I guess," he replied. "Only on the bazooka, though." Julia laughed and tousled Matthew's hair. She looked at her brother in a moment of appreciation, a moment of thankfulness that they were still alive and together to face the world. Matthew, like Julia, had light auburn hair and a few freckles sprinkled over his face. He was a normal-looking boy on the outside, normal height, weight, brown eyes, and messy hair. Yet on the inside, Matthew was anything but normal. He was extremely clever, observant, and sharp-witted. "Hey, Mom," he said to Julia as he looked at her in the bathroom mirror. "Stop staring at me with that worried face. I'm fine." "We both are," Julia replied in a grateful and relieved tone. She then turned on the faucet to wash her face. "Did you iron your uniform?" she asked Maddie while splashing her face. "We need to show our best today. You only make first impressions one time, you know." Yeah, I ironed it," he replied. "Well, technically I hung it in the bathroom while I took a shower, but it's good enough." "Hey, Jules, did you read your recent letter from Dad? He seems excited for us." Julia looked at Matthew through the bathroom mirror. He was taking out his letter from his pocket, and she could see he was very thrilled. Their father, Joe, was sentenced to prison not too long after the mall shooting for child endangerment. Joe, he was a drunk and an irresponsible man, yet his love for his kids was never in question. Maybe that's the reason Julia refused to read even one of his letters. It was just too painful. He left them in that mall. He left them with their drug addict mom. He left Julia to be shot in that store. She knew her dad loved her, yet he also betrayed her and Matthew for booze one too many times. The only one too many of times that ever really mattered. "No," she replied to Matthew softly. "Dad put himself behind those bars. If he wants to talk to me, it's going to have to be face to face." Maddie understood why his sister didn't read her letters. I guess he just hoped if he kept asking, one day she finally would. Julia finished washing up. She then took a moment to look at herself in the full-body mirror. She first focused on her face as she brushed her wavy hair. What will people feel about me when they look at my cold blue eyes, she thought. I hope they'll give me a chance and get to know me. She then looked at herself in her new fancy school uniform, a far cry from her normal jeans and t-shirt. She felt like she was looking at a different girl, a proper girl, someone without all of her baggage and trauma. Julia felt good about that. That is, until she rested her eyes on her prosthetic leg. Although it was covered by the uniform skirt and leggings, she knew it was there, even if no one else did. Maddie noticed her eyes fixated on her leg. "Hey, sis," he said, putting his hand on her shoulder. "You look beautiful. For an ugly girl, that is. But beautiful, within the parameters of the ugly girl universe. You're not that bad." Her eyes teared up for a moment as she gasped out in laughter. "Thank you, you butt-faced loser," she replied. Maddie then gave his big sister a huge hug of support. He would never admit it, but she had always been his hero, even before saving him that day. "You're going to be great, sis," said Matthew. "Everyone will like you. They always do. Me, on the other hand, I'll have more enemies than friends by the end of the day. That we both know." "Oh, you will definitely have more enemies than friends by the end of the day," replied Julia. "But no matter what, Maddie, I'll always be by your side." They both paused and looked at themselves in the mirror one last time. "So, what do you think? Are we ready?" asked Julia. "Yes, sis.